Okay, let's see. That's off, that's off, off, that's on. The stream is live. We're good to go. Hello! Shadowcat back! Back with more Magic the Gathering. And I'm excited for this one. Why? Because we're almost done with the artifacts. Almost. We're getting close. Last night we spent the entire time talking about equipment, which was a little bit harrowing. The equipment actually went pretty well. It was just that, towards the end there, when I had that sudden kind of realization that, hold on, does this even work? Is this even compatible? I don't know. And then it was kind of bad. So, yeah, it was almost a bad. But we got through it. Equipment is fine. We'll review it real quick before we get started on everything else. But it's good. Also, can't help but notice that I got all kinds of weird icons in my chat. Do you people see that? Is it just me that sees that? It's like number 1 fan, number 2 fan. I don't know what all this is. I'm not ranking people. This is just... I don't know. Wait, no, JP says, what is this new thing? You can see it. You do see it. I have no idea what's going on. I didn't add this. This is YouTube doing YouTube things. I don't know. Anyway, we're gonna get started on this. First, hello to everybody in the chat. Hello, Blizz. Good to see you. Hello, JP. Good to see you too. I hope everybody had a good weekend. Or week. I mean, weekend if you're American, because that was Independence Day, but if you're Canadian, your Independence Day was on July 1st, so, good week, I guess, for you? I don't know. Trying to be sensitive. Hey, doesn't matter. What does matter is that it's International Screw Britain Month, because everybody that used to be under British control all declared independence in July. And that's the real important thing. So, with that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started. JP says also don't forget to plug. Yes, I will do that. So, if you're enjoying this so far and you want to see more of it, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, that way you get notified every time these videos come out. I usually put out reminders for the streams anyway, but, reminders are good. If you know somebody else who's also into either Pathfinder, Magic the Gathering, or tabletop games in general, share this video with them. But if you like what we're doing here, leave a like on the video, leave a comment down below, but if you're gonna go through the effort of leaving a comment down below, might I suggest joining us on the Discord? There is a Discord. There's a link down there for the Discord. And if you do that, you can chat with us in real time, and you can even play with us. In fact, if you would like to play this game with us when the time comes, I mean, we're sitting here building it right now. Eventually, we're gonna play it. If you'd like to play it with us, join the Discord, come to the Behind the Screen channel. Let me know what your availability is, and what game you want to play, because we have multiple modules to play. And as soon as I have enough people, we'll get started. So, do that, and I hope to see you there. And without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into things. So, we're going to need a couple of things first. We're going to need our browser, and we're going to need our spreadsheet. And we'll take a quick look at what we did last time. So, for equipment, the short and sweet of it is we're going to summon the appropriate equipment. Now, I had to phrase it that way because there are so very many different equipments that I can't exactly just put it into words. There are swords, axes, hammers, bows, there's armors, there's helmets, gloves, greaves, boots, all kinds of things. I cannot possibly cover all of that in text in a single item without, leaving something out. So it's just going to be summon the appropriate equipment and use your brain. If it does damage, which many of them do, it's going to follow the same rules as the sorceries and instants do. The mana cost will determine how many dice. The power will determine the size of the dice. And if it has a bonus to toughness, you will get that toughness as a deflection bonus on your armor class. Yes, even if it's a weapon. So if it's a sword that gives you a +1/+1, it will deal however much the armor or the mana cost is. If it only costs 1 to play, 1/1 probably costs 2 to play, honestly. It would be 2d1, which is just going to be 2 points of damage on each swing, and it'll give you a +1 deflection bonus on your armor class. Are you parrying arrows? Well, I mean, if your armor class is 16 and the attacker rolls a 15, then sure, we can go ahead and say that you deflected the arrow. We can spice it up that way. But okay. Also, if you're holding the weapon, wearing the armor, whatever it happens to be, you do get the benefit of any keyword abilities that are on it. So if there is a... If it's a pair of boots that say protection from red and somebody tries to throw a lava axe at you, you're protected. So, fun stuff there, really good, I like it. Moving on to what we're doing today, I want to try and finish up everything else. So that's going to be fortifications, which should be pretty easy, I think. Incubators, may not even be a thing. They may be a thing, I'm not sure. We have to really dive deep into what those are. And vehicles. We already touched on vehicles a little bit when we were talking about the crew ability, because if we come back here to spells and we go through the list, towards the bottom we had crew. And I don't know where exactly it is, but we had it in here. And like I said, we talked about it briefly. There it is, crew. So this vehicle needs a strength of X to control. Now, given our change to the rule there, where instead of it needing a certain number of creatures, it needs a strength of X to control. Because the way crewing works in Magic the Gathering is you don't necessarily need a number of creatures, you just need a number of creatures that add up to whatever power. So if you've got a whole bunch of goblins, then yes, your goblins could all crew that ship. If you have one big creature, that can do it too. So it's not really a numbers game, it's just a meet the number game. Kinda, sorta. That made more sense in my head. Anyway, that's what we're going to be working on. So for starters, let's go ahead and take a look at fortifications. And that means I got to get back here so we can actually, look at fortifications. Here we go. So introduced in Future Sight, fortifications act just like equipment, except they are attached to lands instead, using their fortify ability. For a long time, there's only one fortifications that were imprinted. It was finally reused in the universes beyond Fallout. Now, that's going to be kind of... We're not obviously using the universes beyond Fallout version, which means there is only one fortification card that is going to be relevant to us. Go away. And that fortification card, I wonder if I can find it. Do you guys have it linked here? No? Oh, wait, here we go. Darksteel Garrison. Okay. So, this is literally the only one that we have. It is the Darksteel Garrison. I hate it when they do these weird cards. There it is. There's the mana cost. It costs 2 to play. Fortified land is indestructible. Whenever fortified land becomes tapped, equipped creature gets +1/+1 till end of turn. Fortify is 3. Costs 3 to attach it to a target land you control. And that's great. Now, how do we turn this into something that we can use? So first things first, we need to establish a few things. When it says that we're going to be creating, this is a fortification could mean a lot of things. Technically speaking, a foxhole is a fortification. Kinda. Sorta. A little bit. I mean, if you don't like that, technically a wooden barricade is also a fortification. It's kind of a broad category. A fortification is anything that makes an area more defensible. And so we have to look at exactly what is this going to do for us. Now, when we looked at walls, we decided that using walls as an example in Pathfinder, we can make the walls an appropriate size based on their mana cost. And that was... where was that? Was that under creatures? Now I don't remember. It was somewhere in here. Was it under here? It might have been under here. Checking out all of these. Here we go. Yeah, wall. No bonuses because it's a wall. And the wall is up to 1 10-foot square per level. So, yeah, basically based on mana cost. Fortifications could be kind of the same thing. Except it has to be a bit more than that, because it isn't just a wall. It has to be something that is more... It's got to be more. Essentially what we're doing is we're creating a small shelter here. And that's going to be kind of the hard part. There's not a lot for us to go on here. It costs 2. We could say that it holds 2 people. Although it does say Darksteel Garrison. I wonder. I'm gonna use my phone for this one. Is there a particular size for that? I mean, let's establish here, what exactly is a garrison anyway? Maybe this will help. So, according to the dictionary, this being the Oxford Dictionary, a garrison is the troop stationed in a fortress or town to defend it. Okay, that is a rather broad term. It is just the troops stationed in a fortress or town to defend it. It does not actually determine, or is determined by a size. So you could garrison it with a team, you could garrison it with a company, it doesn't seem to matter. Well, it's actually kind of helpful for us now that I think about it. Since that doesn't matter. Here's a thought. And I'm going to borrow a little bit from the walls. See, when we did the walls, we established that it's going to be a certain number of 10-foot squares, and you can adjust how those squares go. We did that over here. Let me zoom in a little bit. We took a wall, and this wall was 1, 2, 3. This wall cost 7 to play. And we said that the line will simply go through the middle of the 10-foot square, and that way you can actually adjust how it goes. So you can have all of these straight sections, but you can even have corner pieces so that you can bend it. And this works really well. What if, and I'm just spitballing here, what if we made it so that you could do something similar, but instead of using the red line for like the wall, we use the black lines. So, if we're using the mana cost for the size of the garrison, there is only one garrison, and it costs 2. So, it could be the size of 2 of these. Okay? It's not hard. Which means that you could create a garrison, you could create this fort, a fortification, that could hold up to 8 people. Or if they were large people, 2. Because large would take up, a 10 by 10 square. I kind of like that idea. Now, obviously, I think you would need to have some kind of door on it, because otherwise, what? The question is, does it get a roof? Does it get a ceiling? Does it get a windows? Does it get what does it get? And what things can we specify? I'm going to come back here to spells, because there are spells that are similar to this. For example, Web Bolt, Web Shelter. Here we go. This is one of the most basic conjuration spells for a shelter in Pathfinder. You get it at as a level 2 spell, and it's pretty good. You create a shelter out of slightly sticky webbing. The shelter has a hinged door, large enough to accommodate a medium creature. The opaque walls of the shelter measure 1 inch thick and provide total cover to anyone within it. Only fine creatures with negligible strength can be caught in the webbing, including swarms. All of the creatures can pull themselves free without making a strength check or taking an action. The webbing is sticky enough to hold twigs, leaves, dirt, and other light items, allowing you to conceal the shelter. The shelter is watertight and insulated when the door is closed. Its surface has a hardness of 0 and 2 hit points for every 5-foot square of web surface area. It takes normal damage from fire and burns as easily as wood. When the spell ends, the webbing decays rapidly and disappears. And if you disguised it, or camouflaged it with, just detritus, it all falls on you. Because I'm the DM and I'm mean. But the effect is a 5 to 10 foot diameter web sphere or a 5 to 20 foot hemisphere that lasts for 1 hour per level. So when we're talking about the web shelter here, a 5 to 10 foot diameter web sphere, well, diameter means the full distance across, which means that the web shelter is the size of one of these black squares. Or if you wanted it to be only half, which means there's not really a door anymore, it could be the size of 2 of these. But again, that's only half of it. You'd have to cast another one to get like a whole dome. I think that's a good way to go. Now this one offers you total concealment with a door. Most of the other ones are extra dimensional. I'm going to look for shelters. Campfire wall creates a shelter around a campfire. We'll take a look. So this one is a 20-foot radius centered around a fire source that lasts 2 hours per level. You create a barrier around a fire of at least campfire size that shelters everyone inside so long as the fire continues to burn. The barrier appears as a crackling sphere of light and fire that is clearly visible, providing as much illumination as a torch. The barrier blocks line of sight, granting creatures on either side of the barrier total concealment from creatures on the other side. Any object or creature passing through the barrier takes 1d6 points of fire damage and is also outlined with light equivalent to that of a torch for 1d6 minutes. Creatures outlined this way are plainly visible regardless of light condition, do not benefit from any kind of concealment. If you're inside the barrier, though, you can leave without any penalty, but if you try to come back, you suffer the same consequences. So that's just a big dome that would cover your campfire. What else do we have? Here we go, Tiny Hut. This is a classic one. Tiny Hut takes a verbal, somatic, and material component, a small crystal bead, and it creates a 20-foot radius sphere centered on your location. You create an unmoving, opaque sphere of force of any color you desire around yourself. Half the sphere projects above the ground, and the lower hemisphere passes through the ground. As many as 9 other medium creatures can fit in the field with you, and they can freely pass in and out without harming it. However, if you remove yourself from the hut, the spell ends. The temperature inside is 70 degrees, if the exterior temperature is between 0 and 100. If it gets below 0 or over 100, it raises or lowers the temperature on a 1-for-1 basis. The hut provides protection against the elements such as rain, dust, sandstorms. It withstands any wind of less than hurricane force, but if a hurricane or greater force hits it, it is destroyed. The interior is a hemisphere. You can illuminate it dimly upon command or extinguish the light as desired. Although it is opaque from the outside, it is transparent from within. Missiles, weapons, and most spells can pass through the hut without affecting it, although occupants cannot be seen from outside the hut and have total concealment. And so we're getting kind of closer to what I think we're talking about, and this is still a total area. But this doesn't really offer you a whole lot of protection except for just the concealment. And I guess that's all we're really going to get is concealment. So if we're going to make notes, and let's go ahead and make some notes here. It's going to be... I'm actually not going to do this yet. I'm going to say it's going to be a 10-foot square per mana cost. Okay, and they must be adjacent. You can't make multiples of them. It's going to offer total concealment, because that is a running theme here. It's going to offer total concealment. Now, what about protection from the elements? So one of the things that we noted here is that Tiny Hut will protect you from the elements. The campfire one didn't really mention elements. I'm going to double check that one. It shelters everyone inside. It's a crackling sphere of light. It blocks line of sight. Does not mention anything, so I'm going to go ahead and assume that it does not provide protection from elements. The Tiny Hut does. We just read through that one. We know that it does. Secure Shelter, though. Let's take a look at this one. This one creates a sturdy cottage. Again, we're getting into level 4 spells here now. Hold on. Thought I had to sneeze. Okay, so, Secure Shelter. Now, the nice thing about this is you get it at level 4, and it lasts for 2 hours per level. Okay, no, it's a level 4 spell. You get it at, let's say level 6? No. Level 5? Gonna find out. Wizards would get it first. Your first level 4 spell comes at level 7. I was way off on that one. So, it would last for 14 hours. That's nice. Okay, you conjure a sturdy cottage or lodge made of material that is common in the area where the spell is cast. The floor is level, clean, and dry. The lodging resembles a normal cottage with a sturdy door, 2 shuttered windows, and a small fireplace. It must be heated as a normal dwelling, and extreme heat adversely affects it and its occupants. The dwelling does, however, provide considerable security otherwise. It is as strong as a normal stone building, regardless of its material composition. The dwelling resists flames and fire as if it were stone. It is impervious to normal missiles, but not the sort cast by siege weapons or giants. The doors, shutters, and even chimney are secure against intrusion, the former two being secured with arcane lock and the latter by an iron grate at the top and a narrow flue. In addition, these areas are protected by an alarm spell. Finally, an unseen servant is conjured to provide service for you for the duration of the shelter. The secure shelter contains crude furnishings, 8 bunks, a trestle table, 8 stools, and a writing desk. So, if we're going to look at perhaps the closest approximation to what we're going to get for a fortress, this seems to be it. And what do we have? First off, if we go by what we said before, and it gets a 10-foot square per mana, well, that fortification costs 2 to play, and here it is. So it's going to be... It'll hold 8, which is perfect, because that's exactly what this says. 8 bunks and 8 stools. This thing is protection from all missiles. Technically, I guess you could shoot back because it does have windows, so you could do that. It protects from... Well, actually, no, it doesn't. It does not protect from the elements. It protects from wind, rain, things like that. But it does not protect from temperature. It says it must be heated normally, and extreme heat will adversely affect its occupants. So, let's go ahead and add this. It's going to be impervious to missiles, immune to fire, and PC Unicorn's in. Hello, PC Unicorn. Good to see you. We're talking about fortresses. It will protect from... Protection from wind and rain, but not temperature. Now, these are things that are normally not a huge issue, but in certain conditions, they do have to be taken into consideration. Interestingly, I wonder. The effect here is a 20-foot square structure. You know what I'm kind of thinking? What if we just use this 20-foot square structure? I say that because we're already looking at making it two of these squares. Each one of these is 10 foot. This is technically 20 feet across. Essentially what we'd be doing is doubling that. So I'm going to go for a rectangle here, and I'm just going to draw this in. That would be it. This would be the secure cottage. And so if we had to look at this, it would have 8 bunks. So if we assume that the bunks are built into the wall, we could potentially put 8 bunks on this side. Because like I even have things for that. Let me go to my library, because I have bunk beds that I use in my starship maps. Here we go. It's a little bit sci-fi, but it'll work for our purposes. But bunk, 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 and bunk. There we go. Now, it says it has a fireplace as well. We can throw a fireplace in here somewhere. It says it has a table and seating for 8. It would be very tight, but it could be done. I think this works. So here's what I think we're going to do. I think for the fortification, we are just going to go ahead and use this spell, the Secure Shelter. So I'm going to say per Secure Shelter, but with no amenities. Because it's not a shelter, it's just a fortification. In addition, however, I'm going to go ahead and say that multiple fortifications I'm going to say multiple adjacent fortifications merge to a single structure. And I think I like the way that works too, because that way, if I get rid of these, if we have, say, another one, and we'll just cast it over here, we cast another one right there, then they merge to become a single one. And now we just have one large fortification. And we can keep doing this. Now, again, we have to think about this because it is a spell, and it's only going to last for 1 minute per caster level. Since this is done at level 2, it only costs 2 to play. It could last for 2 minutes, which is, not huge, but it's something. Unless, and I have to stress this, unless it does have this Fortify 3, where you have to attach the fortification to the target land. Do we want to do that instead? Again, it costs 2 to play it. Technically speaking, if this was any other kind of artifact, we would need to pay the equip cost to to attach it to one of our creatures. Or would we? Actually, that's a really good question. Because we didn't really talk about that when we talked about the equipment. Our creatures are a lot smarter than they would be in the normal tabletop game. A goblin in the normal tabletop game would not be able to simply bend over and pick up an axe. But ours kinda can. So if you were to, say, conjure an axe and then throw it over to one of your goblins, the axe flies, it lands in the dirt right next to it. Can the goblin just pick it up without paying the equip cost? Or is the equip cost the equivalent of you literally magically attaching it to that goblin at pretty much any range? It's an interesting concept because you don't need to pay the equip cost to pick it up. In this case, though, when we're talking about a fortification, it's not as if the ground can simply pick it up. I think this is one of those times where I'm going to have to go ahead and make kind of a weird ruling. because there's no good way to handle this. Fortifying the land doesn't... it doesn't, I just don't like it. In summoning the Darksteel Garrison, I think it should just appear, and then it's there. That's all there really is to it. PC Unicorn says probably not, because there are spells that can force a line equip. I'm not sure what a line equip is, but I'm just going to assume this says force an equip. Also spells that force and equip magnetic theft is fun. I don't know magnetic theft, but it sounds awful. Okay, this is fair. And it also sounds like one of those things where I have to think about this pragmatically. So there is one card that I do know of. And I'm going to go ahead and find it. It's a classic one from Mirrodin. And it's called the Skull Clamp. Wait a minute, they did another one for Final Fantasy? Cool. That's not the one that I know, though. The one that I know is this one? No. Not that one. There was one for Mirrodin, wasn't there? Yeah, because there's 18 of these. Where's the one that I know? Here's the one that I know. I think I might even have one. Skull Clamp. The equipped creature gets +1, -1. And of course, if a creature has, toughness equal to 0, that creature dies. Which made it kind of an easy way to kill creatures early on. Of course, you can only attach it to a creature you control, which I guess is where things like magnetic theft would come in, where you could slap this on a creature and kill it. So I can see where that would happen. But again, that's going to be a case of, even if you threw the Skull Clamp at your enemy's goblin, the goblin's not going to pick it up and put it on. That would just be dumb. Again, we're saying that our creatures in Pathfinder are going to be a little bit smarter. And PC Unicorn says, also, goblins are not smart unless they're from Planar Chaos. This is true. We also have to keep in mind that your goblins are, because of how we're playing this, they're essentially as smart as you are. If you wouldn't do it, the goblin wouldn't do it. Because, let's face it, goblins are not smart, but these also aren't real goblins. And PC Unicorn says, example flavor text for the Goblin Spearman, I think it was. Quote, once he figured out which end of the spear was the pointy one, he was promoted to guard duty. God, I love some of these sometimes. No, I think you're absolutely right when we're talking about, actual goblins. And keep in mind that we are making echoes of those actual goblins. So for the actual goblin, I think that's fair. And hilarious. And fair. But for our echoes, since you're controlling them, you're able to impart your intelligence to them. So we can give a little bit of leeway. If somebody threw the Skull Clamp at one of your goblins, it doesn't necessarily have to just lean over, grab it, and slap it on their neck. However, if you're talking about things like that magnetic theft, which could force them to equip it, well, now the other planeswalker is literally just teleporting that equipment onto that goblin. And they're doing so maliciously. So I think we're set. I think that's good. So getting back to the whole shelter thing, I think that we can use the actual mana cost of it, which fits in a multitude of ways. I mean, it costs 2 to play, it's a 20-foot shelter, The downside, of course, is that it's only going to last for 2 minutes. So, I mean, you're not going to get much use out of it. I think this is good. And we don't need to worry about the fortified cost because the fortified cost is walk through the goddamn door. Okay? Just go. So I think it's going to be fine. I think we can leave this one as it is. So we're going to use the secure shelter, no amenities, so there's no bunks, no table, no stools, no fireplace, no nothing. It's just going to offer you protection from missiles, from wind, from rain. It gives you a place to fight back. It'll be fine. It's going to be a garrison, or it's going to be a fortress for you to garrison. Not a big one, but not all fortresses have to be huge. Just if you want to have a famous fortress, it needs to be huge. Okay, so I think that works for what we wanted to do. That's actually really easy. It's really clean. I like it. All right, so we're going to move on to the next one. And I have mixed feelings about this one. Incubator. So this is going to be very much a Phyrexian thing. And as we already established, because of our whole timeline and key moments thing, we're going to be this is all going to be taking place unless we come to a different conclusion. My general assumption is that this will be taking place after the fall of Phyrexia. Okay, the Phyrexians are going to be scattered to the wind. And we're going to do that because we have the what are they called? Now I've forgotten what they're even called. The portals between planes now. I have forgotten what the hell they're called. Okay, I actually have to look this one up. Can't believe I have to look this up. What was it called? Let me go back and check my notes here. Let's see. Time. No. Okay, here we go. Is this it? Where was it? No, that's about colors. Where was that? Because I know I did the math and everything and sat down and figured out what time period that we're playing in, and now I don't remember it. Where is the thing that I'm looking for? Okay, here we go. Time prerequisites. Omen paths, that's what they were called. I knew it was in there somewhere. The omen paths. Okay, so yeah, because we have omen paths, which are going to allow people to travel from one plane to another, there have to be no more Phyrexians, because the Phyrexians have already opened them. At least I think it was the Phyrexians that opened them. And so, I mean, best case scenario, we're playing after the fall of Phyrexia and there's basically no more Phyrexians. Worst case scenario is that we're actually playing through, like, the actual march of the machine and the Phyrexians are marching across the multiverse currently. But hey, if you want to play through that scenario, we can do that too. Anyway, though, just because they're scattered to the wind doesn't mean that we might not need these rules, so we have to do this. Incubators are Phyrexian growth pods used to create new Phyrexian soldiers. They are front face of a double-faced token. It creates an incubator artifact token with N+1/+1 counters, which can then be transformed into a zero Phyrexian creature. Okay, so incubators. I'm going to go ahead and assume that all of these are incubators. So I'm just going to pick one. Glistening Dawn. Sounds nice. It's a sorcery. Not a thing. Okay, maybe not. What about this Elvish Vat Keeper? Okay, there we go. There's a creature. It's a Phyrexian elf. But it is not two-sided. So when Elvish Vat Keeper enters the battlefield, incubate 2. That's create 2 incubator tokens, or create an incubator token with 2 1/1 counters on it. And pay 2, transform this artifact. It transforms into a 0/0 Phyrexian artifact creature. Or pay 5, transform target incubator token you control, double the number of 1/1 counters on it. Okay. So how do we want to play this? Is there anything we need to do? Because this seems pretty, this seems pretty straightforward. So if you are a Planeswalker and you have this Elvish Vat Keeper thing, which it's apparently uncommon, which means it's not impossible for you to get one of these. You would just have to see one. And you could, in theory, come across one. Because anything uncommon is on the encounter table. You summon this thing, your Elvish Vat Keeper comes into being. So, I mean, you're in the area, all you need is 1 mana, plus 1 black, plus 1 green. Should be available in almost every place. It would have to be dead to one of those 2 colors for you to not be able to cast this. You cast it, and it materializes in front of you. It says, then incubate 2. You create an incubator token with 2 1/1 counters on it. So you conjure this thing into being, and as soon as it comes into being, it in turn conjures a pod. Now, the pod, I guess, is going to need to have some stats. I have to assume. However, then it transforms into a Phyrexian artifact creature with the 2 1/1 counters on it, which means it's going to have 12 strength and 12 constitution, as well as maybe other things. It's a 0/0 Phyrexian artifact creature. Do we have anything for those? Let's take a look. Let's go back to all the creature types that we did and look for Phyrexian. Most of these should be alphabetical. No. 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 Here we go, Phyrexian. Phyrexians are mutable. They get a +2 to any that you want. So when we're making the character sheet for it, you can just pick whatever you want. So it would have 12 strength, 12 constitution, plus 12 of whatever else you wanted. Probably dexterity, honestly. And there you go. Or if you're level 5, you could simply use its other ability, transform the incubator, and double its counters, which would be, great. That's awesome. Is there anything that we actually need to do for this, except for make a stat block for the actual incubator pod itself? Here is the Chrome Host Seed Shark. It's a Phyrexian shark with flying. Wait, hold on. It's a shark. It's made of metal. And it has flying. Hold on a second. I think I may know what this is. I think I may have seen this before. Let me see, let me see. Yep, there it is. I knew that I'd seen this before. Apparently, the Predacon Skybite is a Phyrexian shark. I was unaware of this. However, now, all Phyrexian sharks shall hereby be known as Skybite. Look, I don't make the rules. No, wait, yes, I totally make the rules. That's why I'm making this one. Anyway, all Phyrexian sharks are now Skybite. Getting back to the Seed Shark. Okay, so it is a metal shark with flying. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, incubate X, where X is that spell's mana value. So create an incubator token with X, 1/1 counters. Oh, and Blizzard Star, looks like you're out of here. Well, Blizz, I'm glad to see you today. Thank you for coming. And I guess I'll see you next week. Till then, take care. Okay, so it looks like the X is just going to be the size of the incubator, not the actual number of things it's creating. So you summon the shark and you get one, actually you get nothing. It says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, then you get to incubate X. So it doesn't actually give you anything when it comes out. Point being that I think we just need to, I think we can leave it as is. I think we can leave it as is. I'm going to go ahead and say it is done, because we can just follow the rules as they are. And I'm going to say C incubator stat block. And we'll have to make one of those. Do we want to make one of those right now? We could make one of those right now. Here's what we'll do. I'm going to go ahead and copy this. There's nothing else next to it, right? Boom. Done. Okay. I need to clear these things out. There we go. Okay. Name is going to be Incubator. Alignment is neutral. Size. Probably going to be... It's definitely going to be small. It's small. The type, it's an echo. Initiative is essentially none, because it doesn't do anything. Senses, none. Perception, none. Okay, armor class. Generally speaking, I would be applying stats to this, but since it is just essentially an egg, okay, we may as well go ahead and use the egg stats for this thing. Armor class is just going to be 10. That's going to be 10 across the board. Hit points. I don't know if we're going to be applying levels to this, but I guess. So hit points are going to be per level. Fortitude is going to be +0, reflex +0, will +0, weaknesses not applicable. Speed is going to be none. Melee attack, none. Ranged attack, none. Space is going to be 5 foot. The reach is going to be none. Special attacks, none. Spell-like abilities, none, as far as I know. The strength of this thing is going to be 0, because it's just there. Dexterity is going to be 0. Constitution, though. Anything with 0 Constitution is dead, so it can't have that. It's going to have just a 10 Constitution. Intelligence, 0. Wisdom, 0. Charisma, 0. Base attack bonus, 0. It has no combat maneuver bonus. Technically, though, it does have a combat maneuver defense. You still have to work if you're going to influence the thing. And so, dexterity at 0 is going to be a -5, I think. And so, it's going to have a combat maneuver defense of 5. Feats, none. Skills, none. There are no ranks. It speaks no languages. Let me scroll up here. Special abilities. Well, the special abilities is actually what the incubator does. So I'm going to come back here to this one. And I'm going to copy this. And so I'm going to go ahead and say 2, and then paste. And there we go. And so this will just get used as a generic for all of the incubators. The only thing that's really going to change is going to be the number of hit points, which is good and appropriate, because that will change how much damage it can take before it's just plain destroyed, and it gives higher level planeswalkers a better chance of actually incubating these things and getting them out. Now, some of this might be restricted. I'm sure that there are common cards that are Phyrexians. And depending on where we're playing and how we're playing, I may have to kind of put the kibosh on that. So, for example, card type. Actually, super type. No, not what I wanted. Rules, text, cards, subtype. Ah, here we go. I want Phyrexian, and specifically, I'm looking for common. There are 175 results for that. Yeah, here we go. And this is what I'm talking about. This is where I may need to use the GM's fiat, because depending on when we're playing, these may or may not be allowed. Because we have a Phyrexian Druid, Phyrexian Goblin, Phyrexian Samurai, Cleric, Core, Wizard, all of these things. These are all commons, and according to normal rules, should be available on level up. But they are Phyrexians. Now, there's a couple of ways that we could take this. Number one, we could say that because of the mass experience from March of the Machines, and essentially the multiversal war against the Phyrexians, everybody has enough experience that these things are now common. They are a common experience, and so they are allowed. Alternately, we can say that because they're gone, nobody has seen one of these things in forever, and they're not here anymore. So I don't know how we're going to play this. It may depend entirely on the time frame that we're playing in, whether these things are allowed or not. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. But okay, I think that's going to work for the incubators. I think that'll work. Now, before I go any further, it is the top of the hour, so we'll go ahead and plug everything again. Just remember that if you're enjoying this, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, that way you get notified every time these videos come out. If you know somebody else who's also into Pathfinder, Magic the Gathering, or tabletop games in general, then feel free to share this video out with them, because if they like any of those things, they'll probably like what we're doing here. If you like what's going on, go ahead and leave a like on the video. If you want to leave a comment down below, you can do that too. But if you're going to go through all the effort to leave a comment down below, might I suggest join us on the Discord. There's a link down there. It does work. Join the Discord where you can chat with us in real time. So not only can you leave comments, but your comments can get comments to them. It's kind of how it works. And if you want to play with us, you have to join the Discord, because you have to go to the Behind the Screen channel, where you can then tell us what your availability is, because it's going to be important, and what game that you want to play, whether it's Magic the Gathering or some of the other modules we've worked on. And once I have enough people for one game, you know, with a common schedule, we can begin. I will begin putting everything together to play. Although if it's the Magic the Gathering game, you're going to wait till the module's actually done first. So there's that. But okay, we're going to go ahead and go with that. So moving on, we did the fortification, we did the incubator. Next, and I think this is going to be terribly fun, we're going to do vehicles. And PC Unicorn says, could be for... Wait, hold on. Could be for the I don't know what that word is. Is it continuity that you're trying to spell there? If you're on a phone, I can see how that might be a problem. Could be for continuity. There are enough text describing them. Could echo just from that. It's possible. That is not something that we have talked about. The way that we've been playing this, Planeswalkers are able to copy anything that they can see or experience. Learning it from a text might be difficult. And the reason for that is, if you were to learn a spell from another Planeswalker, it's really simple, because they can actually perform the spell for you. So if you wanted to learn how to summon an elf from a green Planeswalker, they could actually summon the elf and let you study it. They could have it move around, they could have it attack, they could have it do all these things, so you can observe it, and you could learn it simply by osmosis. Which is what we're kind of talking about. This is how Planeswalkers tend to learn things. PC Unicorn corrected themselves, a commonality. Okay, and that's fair. Learning something from a book, though. I like the idea. I gotta say, I do like it. I like the idea that a Planeswalker could walk into the local library. Like, let's say that a Planeswalker walked in here. Okay? What should stop a Planeswalker in our world from walking into any library anywhere, okay? Anywhere. Walk into a library, pick up a copy of The Hobbit. What should be stopping them from reading the description of Smaug and then piecing together how to actually make Smaug? And since we're talking about our world, what if it wasn't just the book? What if they read the book and then watched the movie? Movies, because it's a trilogy now. Should they be able to conjure Smaug based on what they have seen in the movie? This is actually going to get into an area where it's going to stretch the definition of what qualifies as experience and what they can cast from. Because, let's face it, Smaug is completely fictional. And so could anything described in any of those texts. Those texts could be historical records that describe a Phyrexian whatever. They could also be completely wrong and completely fictional. So now we're bridging on the edge of, can a planeswalker create anything? And I feel like this is going to be one of those things that I'm going to have to say no to, but not because they can't. See, interestingly, we already kind of sort of have a precedent for that in Niv Mizzet, I think. Is it Niv Mizzet? No, not Niv Mizzet. It's the other one. Nicol Bolas. Nicol Bolas, that was it. Nicol Bolas is one of the strongest planeswalkers in existence. Maybe even in history. To the point where Nicol Bolas actually is one of those key figures where, like, you could not remove him from history or from existence without altering the entire multiverse. Because you have to look at not just the first order effects, but the second and third order effects of the things that he has done. That is how prominent his position is. And he has gone so far as to actually create pocket dimensions. He has just invented things out of thin air. Or I guess thin mana, I suppose. Should they be able to do that? Again, I have to say that according to the lore and the things that have been described by some of the most powerful planeswalkers, the answer is yes. But if that's the case, how do we possibly put an end to this thing? Like, how do we balance this? And I don't know. Like, for example, you're talking about learning how to summon a Phyrexian from a from a text. Okay, that's pushing it a little bit, maybe, I think, but it's not really harmful. But how many nuke cards are there? Like, I can only really think of one off the top of my head. Well, actually, no, I can think of two, and I'm going to go for the other one now. Armageddon. I wonder if this is still legal. Oh my god, it is. It is legal in Commander. Does anybody actually use this card? Oh no, does anybody actually do this? That could be awful. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. Armageddon. This is a card that has been around forever. Like when was the first printing? This has 16 printings. Let's go back. Armageddon. What is this one? This is where's the standard rarity? Yes. Set. Ah, yeah, goes all the way back to alpha. Armageddon. This one has been there forever. All lands in play are destroyed. Is this something that we should be learning? Okay. So this is called a nuke card because that's exactly what it does to the entire table. It destroys everything like a nuke. Armageddon is one of them. There's a couple others, and I don't remember what they are. I think there is one that destroys all creatures, and there's another one that destroys just everything. Wait, hold on. I think I know what the other one is. Yes! I got it. No, this is not it, because this is Wrath of God. This is destroy all creatures. I thought there was something that destroyed the entire table. And now I can't think of it. By the way, this is also legal in Commander. Damn. Okay, anyway though. Armageddon. I gotta say, I like the new artwork. You can't quite see it, but it's really good artwork. This is a really, really powerful spell because, I mean... Remember when we were talking about our mana system? Do you remember when I was talking about the mana system here? And we talked about how all of this is like really important and really balanced because white represents these things, blue represents these things, black and red and green, etc. And we went through and we charted all of this and said, you know, if it's going to be white, it's going to have these effects if you either add or remove white. If you add or remove black, you have these effects. Actually, this is if you add black. If you remove black, it has the opposite effect. So blue, all the colors are going to give these things. What would happen, though, if you simply removed all of them? And I mean, what is the range on these? That is not something that we have really discussed. Because when we're talking about something like Armageddon, range is kind of important. Anyway, I don't know off the top of my head. This is something I never really considered. But I brought it up because we're talking about nukes. Now, Armageddon is a nuke card, and by the way, this one is mythic rare. According to this, because you can see like the symbol right there, it's orange. Kind of orangey, goldy kind of color. It's mythic rare. You're not getting this card, okay? You can't have this spell. This is the kind of spell that happens, and it's like whoever invented it probably died along with it. So, what if, though, somebody literally had a, that they decided they were going to study other planes, and they studied our planes. Remember that whole multiverse thing? Technically speaking, Earth, yes, this Earth, is in the multiverse. And if you don't believe me, I can prove it. Not only has it been stated outright that Earth is in the multiverse by the people who actually make Magic the Gathering, if you go through the universes beyond, Warhammer 40k takes place in the year 40,000, and that is our future. You can literally trace the lineage in Warhammer 40k back to modern day Earth. The same thing is true for Doctor Who, which also had its own set. The Doctor focuses most of his attention on Earth. He likes Earth. So, if Earth is in play, why can't one of these planeswalkers learn, say, I don't know, the artifact spell ICBM? They could envision it, they could spy on us and try to copy one, they could, read a Wikipedia article on ICBMs and try to learn it that way. Either way, do we allow a planeswalker to summon an ICBM? And the answer to that, I think, is going to be a pretty clear and concise no. We're not going to allow that. So, it's a roundabout way to get there, but I think that we have to kind of put our foot down and say that while we can make every single argument that a planeswalker should be able to learn how to summon something from historical text, I don't think we can allow it simply because of the sheer unadulterated range of things that would include. So we have to make it part of our rule that in order to learn something, and we did write down rules for that. It was under creatures? Was it? No. Was it written down in spells? Ah, yes, here we go. So for commons, you get them on level up. It takes no study. For uncommons, it's acquired on sight. This is for all of these actually. For uncommons, it's 1 minute of study. For a mythic or for a rare, it's 5 minutes of study, 10 minutes of study, 20 minutes of study. And PC of course says, look up the Punky Doodles animation 50 caliber magic missile. Okay, I actually really like Punky Doodles, so I might. Can I find it? I don't see it. Nope, I don't see it. So, unfortunately, we can't do that. Probably gonna be copyright claimed or something anyway. But okay. Let me get my chat back up. Alright, so... yeah, you have to be able to actually see the thing that you want to cast, and you have to study it for a certain amount of time. And it's got to be, or it'll be around for however long. So, like, even if you want to study like a goblin or something, so long as it doesn't disappear before the time for study is up, you could study it that way. Everything else, though, I don't think we can allow. I just don't think we can. It's not feasible. But okay. Getting back on track. It was a good detour, though. That's a good detour. It's definitely worth investigating. And now I know that I also have to establish a range for spells. Because big spells. I don't know how I'm gonna do that. Although I do have kind of an idea of how to do that, and the reason is this. Do I have a map ready? This will be most by starships and stuff, but outdoor combat, puzzle screen. Here we go, map. Okay, this is a map from a game that we were playing. Okay, and like here's where my party was. You can see them just barely up here, but this is them. And so this is one of our maps. Now, thing about this map is that you can't quite see it, but it is arranged into grids, and I'll go ahead and make the grid a little bit easier to see. Grid, grid, grid. Here we go. Let's go ahead and make those lines black. Close that. Now we can see it. So, the thing about these is that each one of these grids is 24 miles. Now, that's a long distance, but that's enough distance for you to travel in a day. It's enough distance for you to travel in a day. And PC, of course, says, sent a link in a Discord. Okay, hold on a second. We may have a slight detour. Okay, let's see. Is this going to come up in the right window? Yes, it will. All right, here we go. I'll get back to vehicles in a minute.
We should be safe at this distance, right? Yeah, that wizard doesn't have a spell with enough range to get us, so... Wait, what the hell is he holding?
Cast 50 caliber magic missile!
Should be safe.
I love those. I do. That was funny. Okay. Let me put this back now. Okay. Thank you for that. That was worth it. Alright, so anyway, each one of these squares is going to be 24 miles. This is the smallest division that I really have. And so, technically speaking, I think that this can be the range for Planeswalker spells. Now, that's going to be a little bit difficult. I think that we may need to make a distinction between targeted spells and untargeted spells. So if it says target creature, target player, whatever, that is going to need to have a range, and that range may simply be line of sight. For other things, though, there are things that have just global effects. My immediate first thought isn't Armageddon, it's enchantments. So I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to look at, let's see, advanced search. I want to pull up an enchantment. Here we go. And let's go ahead and make it common, just to help narrow things down a little bit. There we go, 10 results. Here we go. Enchantments. That's enchant creature. Here we go. Holy armor. No, it's target creature. I don't want a target creature. I want just an enchantment. Enchant aura. Spider silk armor. Here we go. Spider silk armor. This is a common enchantment. Creatures you control get +0/+1 and have reach. They can block creatures with flying. Hardly weighs anything, but it takes all day to remove. So, what's the range on this? It seems to me like if you cast this, the range has to, number one, encompass all of your creatures, because it doesn't say all creatures in range, it just says all creatures. It does say all creatures that you control get +1/+0 and have reach. So, I think one of the things that I may be able to do is, what if we gave these spells let's start making some notes here, because it's going to be kind of important for spells. Spell ranges. I'm going to call this one acquiring spells. This is LibreOffice. Where's my merge? There it is. So, Acquiring new spells. Copy that, put that down here. And this is going to be spell range. So targeted. This is going to be line of sight. Concealment applies. So that is going to be any of your most of your instants, most of your sorceries. It's also going to apply to all of your creature spells. I mean, you need to be able to point to where you want to summon the creature in order to summon the thing. But if it's line of sight, you can summon it basically anywhere you want. If you want to summon it behind somebody, seems like an idea. But it also might provoke an attack of opportunity, so be careful with that. Untargeted. So this is going to be things like enchantments. It's going to be things that are going to target everything at once. A good example of what I'm thinking of when I say targets everything at once will be Slice and Dice. This is a card that I actually have. And Slice and Dice says it does 4 damage to each creature. Now, to be fair, if we go ahead and make it so that, let's say a Planeswalker has a range of 1 mile per level. And you cast Slice and Dice. 4 damage to each creature. That is actually not a huge deal. Because it kind of sounds like you're going to deal 4 damage to literally every living thing within a mile radius. But that's not the case. Because they're not creatures. So we have to keep in mind the difference. And we've discussed this before. If it says target a creature, that means it specifically has to target an echo. And so the only echoes that should be around are going to be anything that you control, or if you find another planeswalker, anything that they control. But the surrounding people, your party members, their party members, the random NPCs that are fleeing for their lives, should be unaffected. So if we do that, it should be fine, I think. Now we can go ahead and keep this going. What if we said that we did like, what about a 1 mile radius for every 2 levels? We're talking about a radius, which means that it would double. So at level 1, it's a 1 mile radius. And that means it's a 2 mile diameter. It's a really big circle. Doesn't change at level 2. At level 3, it becomes a 2 mile radius. 4 mile diameter. Bigger circle. We can take this all the way up to level 19, where it would become a 10 mile radius, which would apply to pretty much everything in the area. And when we're talking about that big radius, we're talking about almost the entirety of one of these squares. I do think that's important because when we're talking about the mana values, and let me just pull that back up real quick. When we look at these, we can look at the color here and say, huh, that's a light green. Come over here. It's not that darker green. It's got to be the light green, so it's going to be coastline, I guess. Honestly, we'd have to probably do a little bit differently because it should be plains. And so I guess it'd be like that. I don't know. But either way, if we say it's more of like a forest or a plains, it's going to have its own mana values. So we come down here, we look at the forest. And we already have an example forest right here. So we can say that it has 6 green mana, 1 red, 3 black, 4 blue, 2 white. Okay, and that's the mana where the party is here, or the party is right now, because you know this is their carriage and horse. They're right there. So this square has that mana value. It doesn't really matter if you're affecting a 1-mile radius or a 20-mile radius when you start destroying the ley lines that go through the area. Because I know that when we talk about the ley lines, people usually picture these great big streams of energy that are coming from the source. But we have to keep in mind that once they hit an actual plane, they fray like a rope. The rope frays into its constituent ropes, which then fray into their constituent strands, which then fray into their constituent threads, and so on and so forth, so that it is constantly filtering through every single one of these squares. It's not like one that is going to it's not like one strand is going to cover like an entire area. It's going to be a whole bunch of little ones. And so just by affecting anywhere inside of this square, you will change the area. And how this is going to work for me, by the way, just to put this in context, because to understand how this is going to work better. Okay, this is the map, and the map here is 30 by 30. So what we're going to be what I'll be doing here, you don't have to worry about this, but I do. Is that I'll be saying X and Y coordinates. Starting from the top corner, it's going to be rise and then run. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll start from here. It's going to be 30, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. So it's going to be X4 and Y23. And I'll have to come down here and just say this is going to be X4, Y23. And that's how I will be keeping track of all of my mana values. And so if you were to cast Armageddon here and just wipe all of these out like that, they're just gone. I now know that I have a mana dead area on the map. So that's how that will be going, and that will not require an enormous range to do so, just for whoever the Planeswalker is to have the mana destruction and the will to do it. Let's see. PC Unicorn says that would mean you could snipe something many miles away, though. Again, I have to get back to the whole idea of line of sight. You would have to be able to see it. And you're right. You could potentially snipe something that is a really, really long ways away. This is not, however, without precedent. Because in the card game, when you cast a spell and you decide you're going to target another player, for example, just a simple shock, deals 2 damage to the target creature or player, it doesn't actually care how far away you are. That's not part of the game. You cast the magic and the magic knows where to go. And then it's up to the enemy, the other Planeswalker, to deal with it. If they're a white Planeswalker, maybe they cast a spell that says they take no damage this turn from this effect. If they're a blue planeswalker, maybe they just counter it. And I mean, considering how things are going to work, countercasters are going to be absolutely broken in Pathfinder. Because there will always be 2 mana available. Always. So there's going to be lots of ways to get around that. But again, it also depends on line of sight. So they could be many miles away, but can you see that far away? Is there something in the way? Line of sight is great if you're in like the salt flats of Utah. But if you're anywhere else, line of sight doesn't usually mean a whole lot. PC Court also says, also just realized a flaw in something you said weeks ago. You said echoes can't affect non-echoes like enchantments. How do we defend against non-echoes like actual bandits? That is actually a really interesting question. It's a good question, and I'm glad you asked it. When we're talking about things that they can do, spells targeting non-echoes, they don't affect them, which means that if you try to cast a shock against a bandit, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to affect them. However, if we're talking about you summoning like a goblin, and then you sick the goblin on the bandit, you're not targeting him with a spell. The goblin is actually beating him to death with his actual fists, or whatever equipment you choose to give them. So in that case, they do qualify as being a completely physical being. They are a creature, and that's why they have a special creature type. Just like we have aberrations, or we have beasts, or dragons, or constructs, anything like that. Those are all still creatures, and they have that subtype. And it's the same way that there are spells that affect living beings, like sleep. However, there are a ton of creature types out there that are just simply not affected by it. Undead are not affected by mental spells. Constructs are not affected by mental spells. Things of that nature. PC War says, but that implies that we as a planeswalker are an echo being targetable. And the answer to that is no. As we've established, a planeswalker is a player, meaning that only spells that target players or planeswalkers can be used to target normal NPCs. So, for example, I'm gonna pull these up. Shock. Wow, there's actually a lot of that. Here we go. Shock. Shock deals 2 damage to any target. Very simple. It does damage to any target. You can pick anything that you want. It costs 1. It does 2 damage. That's 1d2 damage to any target. It's not great. However, Lightning Blast. This is another card that I have. Lightning Blast deals 4 damage, and it costs 3, so this is doing, or it costs 4, so this is doing 4d4 damage to target creature or player. Target creature means you can hit it, or you can hit an echo with it. Target player means that you can hit anything that's not an echo with it. So you can hit a planeswalker with it, you can hit any of your party with it, you can hit a random NPC on the side or on the sidewalk with it. However, where's another one? Tectonic, I think it is. No. Maybe it wasn't this one. There's another spell that I was thinking of. What was it? Anyway, I can't think of one off the top of my head right now. Maybe this one? No, I don't think so. Carbonize also does damage to target creature or player, so no, that's not the one. But there are spells that specifically say target creature. Actually, I know. It's a bit silly, but I'm going to use it anyway. Unsummon. Unsummon is very simple. Return target creature to its owner's hand. Okay? So you could cast this against any of your opponent's creatures that they have conjured. So if you're conjuring, say, a bunch of goblins, because it's a red planeswalker, you happen to have Unsummon, you can simply just say, okay, well, I'm going to send that creature back to you. Since it's going back to your hand, it's going back to your spells per day. It'll be the exact same spell. You will just simply get your spell back. And then you have to summon it again. And then they can unsummon it again, so long as they have unsummons prepared. Eventually, they will run out of unsummons. Or they will run out of spells per day, whichever comes, first, I guess. And then you can continue to summon your goblins. But you cannot unsummon a planeswalker. Because it does say return target creature. So if it says return target creature or target creature whatever, then that's how that's going to work. Another one. Holy Strength. This is a classic. I think this one also goes all the way back to Alpha. Does it go all the way back to Alpha? I think it does. Going all the way back. Yep, right there. This is an Alpha card. Let's go ahead and pull up the original. The OG. Holy Strength. Target creature gains +1/+2. Meaning that you can cast this to any of your summoned creatures. However, if you're in a party with, your traditional party, you've got a fighter, you've got a wizard, and you've got a rogue, you can't put Holy Strength on the fighter. The fighter is not... It is not that. PC Unicorn says that there are return target permanents, though. And that's a fair point. When they talk about permanents, though, and we're going to have to get really deep into, the actual wording of the actual wording of the terms. Products, rules, comprehensive rules, mechanics. Let's get into card types. This should be in here. Super types, subtypes. I'm looking for permanent. Here we go. Permanent. A card or token a permanent is a card or token on the battlefield. And so, if that's our definition, then we have to look at what do they mean by a card or token. And this might be getting a little bit too broad for our use. A card is a standard component of the game. One of its resources, it can refer to an individual physical or digital card, or the identity of a card by name, so on and so forth. Okay, permanents are typically at least one and possibly more of the following, and here we go. This is where we're going to be able to get around that. When it says return target permanent, we can refer back to this rule and say that permanents are at least one of these. An artifact, a battle, a creature, an enchantment, a land, or a planeswalker. That last one is going to be troublesome. Okay, you have a point here. You got me. Target permanents are also planeswalkers. This might be one of those times where I need to make a decision by fiat. Because if a planeswalker is considered a permanent, and a planeswalker is a targetable permanent, then that means that everyone else could be. Now, there's a couple of ways to do this. There are a couple of ways to do this. Number one is that we can accept it. However, there are some really, really troubling implications if we accept it. Because there are a lot of things that just say destroy target permanent. And if you can destroy a planeswalker, because it says destroy target permanent, then that means that you could also technically destroy a bandit with a destroy target permanent spell. Which sounds kind of cool. Not gonna lie, I like the idea of just saying, you no longer exist. Gone. However, the unfortunate implication is that if you can do it to them, they can also do it to you. So, yeah, that's not great. Otherwise, though, we would have to go back and just say that permanents in our game do not include planeswalkers. And we can actually do that pretty easily. See, the reason why planeswalkers are in this list at all is because they're on the field. You are allowed to play a planeswalker, and it's on the field with you. The reason being that planeswalkers are essentially you calling in help. The reason why they do not have power and toughness, they have loyalty counters, is because they're not a creature. They are a planeswalker. They are your equal, not your subordinate. And as we've already established in our game, because planeswalkers are actual characters and they have their own they have their own identity, they have their lives, their choices, everything else. You cannot summon planeswalkers. And the reason that you can't summon planeswalkers, and I'll go ahead and pull this up, is for the same reason that you can't summon gods. We're going all the way down to the bottom. Here we go. Gate. This is what we're looking for. So, Gate is a 9th level spell in Pathfinder. It's also a 9th level spell in Dungeons and Dragons. This is one of the OG spells. This is one of those spells that, like, if you're a conjurer of some kind, or just like a universalist, every wizard wants to play with Gate. Most wizards die when they decide to play with Gate. Especially if it's Baldur's Gate, then, yeah. So, requires a verbal somatic component as well as a material component, which is, it changes depending on what you want to do. Casting the Gate has 2 effects. First of all, it creates an interdimensional connection between your plane of existence and a plane you specify, allowing travel between these 2 places in either direction. Secondly, you may then call a particular individual or kind of being through the gate. Now, here's where it gets muddy. Calling creatures. The second effect of the gate is to call an extra planar creature to your aid as a calling effect. By naming a particular being or kind of being as you cast a spell, you cause the gate to open in the immediate vicinity of the desired creature and pull the subject through, willing or unwilling. However, and this is important. Deities and unique beings are under no compulsion to come through the gate, although they may choose to do so of their own accord. This use of the spell creates a gate that remains open just long enough to transport the called creatures. This use of the spell has a material cost of 10,000 gold pieces in rare incense and offerings. This cost is in addition to any cost that must be paid to the called creatures. Now, if you choose to call a kind of creature instead of a known individual, you may call either a single or several creatures. In either case, their total hit dice cannot exceed twice your caster level, which is a lot of hit dice by the time you can cast Gate. And we don't really need to go into this because it just means you can cast a whole bunch of creatures so long as they're generic creatures. This first part is the important part. Because, what if you wanted to call, say, Jace? Okay? Jace is not just a planeswalker, he is one of the planeswalkers. He is one of those planeswalkers for whom, like, the entire Magic the Gathering lore centers around. Okay? He is not a small character. He definitely falls under the category of, not a deity, but a unique being. Okay? You are calling for Jace to come to you. You are not allowed to. Now, we could make the argument that you are allowed to try. Because it does say that they are under no compulsion to come through, although they may choose to do so of their own accord. If we wanted to allow this, okay, and this is a really, really big if. If we chose this, we could allow it to happen, and we would need to have some kind of diplomacy check or like a D100 percentage in order to do this. My immediate thought is no. Simply because even if the option existed, and how do I put this delicately without sounding mean? You're a nobody. I mean, Jace, Chandra, Ilyana, all of these characters are like, they're busy. They're very busy right now. Okay, they have things going on. And for them to drop things and come to help you, it's not going to happen. They're not gods, but we also have to remember that, once upon a time, before the Mending, planeswalkers basically were gods. And all of these guys predate the Mending. So they may as well be. You're kind of asking God to come and help you. And God has other things to do. So they're not coming. Now, are there other planeswalkers? There are other planeswalkers. There's actually a lot of other planeswalkers that you could be summoning too. But if we have to accept the rule for one, we have to extend that rule to all of them. And so I think the easiest way to do this is to simply say that we are not summoning planeswalkers. So what does that mean for us? It means that if we're not summoning planeswalkers, then those planeswalkers are not going to be on the field. If they're not going to be on the field, then they're not going to be permanents. And if they're not going to be permanents, it means that we can actually strike them off of here, just get rid of that entirely, and we can reduce our description of permanents down to artifacts, battles, creatures, enchantments, and lands. And with that one little decision, we can also exclude, since planeswalkers are off the table, we can also exclude player characters and NPCs. What does this mean for us? It means that you can no longer exile a random bandit on the side of the road from existence. And I'm sorry, because that does sound really, really awesome. but it also means that nobody can do the same thing to you. Which is also pretty awesome, in a slightly less awesome way, but a much more important way. It means that we go back to the rule before, where the only things that can target you are the things that say any target, target player, or target planeswalker can affect you. And everything else will simply affect only echoes. Now, does that mean that your echoes still can't hurt things? No. Once they've been summoned into physical existence, they are a creature like any other, and they can bite, claw, gnash, hack, whatever. It does mean, however, that if you're worried about bandits on the side of the road, you need to be a little bit more choosy about what spells you pick. Because if you take a spell that does really great damage, but it only does damage versus creatures, then you might be in trouble. To wit, I'm going to find that card, because now I need to know what it was. So let me just get into all my cards here. Nope, not that one. Nope, not that one. No, not that one. I only have like 30 decks or something. Ah, there it is. Okay. What was this card? No, 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 no. There it is. I was close. It wasn't tectonic, it was seismic. It's Seismic Strike. This is the one that I picked. And honestly, I picked it because I'm dumb. Because I looked at the card and I'm like, wow, that does a lot of damage in my mono red deck. And then I actually went to play it and it's like, oh wait, Seismic Strike deals damage to target creature equal to the number of mountains you control. Specifically to target creature, which means that this thing cannot do damage to a target player, or a planeswalker for that matter, or to anything else. Now, how does that actually work in practice? I don't know. If you cast it at the orphanage and it deals no damage to the orphans inside, what does it actually do? I'm hoping that I never have to actually find out because I don't want to make that decision. But that's what I'm talking about. There are a lot of these cards that just target a creature, and unfortunately, if you try to hit like a bandit with it, it's just not going to do anything. So that's how that's going to work. And I am out of time for today. So we didn't get to vehicles. But that's okay. We can do vehicles next time because I'm looking forward to that. Vehicles are going to be interesting because we're going to need to figure out a lot of stuff for them. We're going to figure out not just the size and speed of them, but armor classes, hit points, things like that. Can you carry stuff on them? Do they have a cargo space? Do they have any defenses? How do it do? We're going to figure all of that out next time. So we can go ahead and put these away. If you've enjoyed this today, if you've had fun, did you have fun? Tell me you had fun. If you've had fun today, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon. That way you get notified every time these videos come out. If you know somebody else who also enjoys tabletop games like this, Pathfinder, Magic the Gathering, anything else as long as played on a tabletop, then share this video with them because it's fun. They're going to have fun with it. If you like what we're doing, leave a like. If you want to leave a comment, you can do that too. However, if you're going to leave a comment, might I go ahead and just suggest you join the Discord. The link is down there. It does work. Join the Discord, then you can talk with us. We're friendly. At least we try to be. If you want to play with us, though, you're going to have to join. You need to go to the Behind the Screens channel so that you can let me know what game do you want to play, what your availability is. Once I have enough people with the right availability, I will go ahead and begin assembling the game. And it's going to be fun. So, I look forward to seeing you there. I want to see, more people join us. I want to see more players, actually. Because, if I could do this full-time, oh, that'd be so good. Anyway, though, thank you all for coming out today. And I guess I will see you next week for more Magic the Gathering. And till then, take care.